Hey there, how's it going? It's really good to see you here. And today I'm just gonna do a bit of a chatty, casual video about film photography. It's a hobby that I got into relatively recently, I would say last year at some point. And it's one like I've always wanted to try it, and I don't know why it took me this long into my life to finally do it. Back in high school, I remember there was a film photography class, or there were classes, and I really wanted to do that, but you had to provide your own camera and the film and everything else, and I just couldn't do that at the time. So I was really bummed out. But I remember like I took other art classes, and the photography students stuff was like up on the wall, like all the pictures, and I always look at them and be like, oh, I wish I could. I wish I could do that. In college, I started doing digital photography, kind of just as a side hobby slash side gig, I guess. And so I learned a lot from digital photography, which is probably honestly a better way to learn, because you don't have to keep on like buying film, and you get immediate feedback as to like seeing your settings and stuff and like how they affect the image. You just see that immediately and can experiment and learn a lot faster that way, I feel like. So I'm glad I did actually start with digital photography. But more recently, I got a very not recent camera, and I replaced the original neck strap with this one that's a little softer, and just I think it's cuter, but maybe that doesn't matter. So learning film photography on this camera has been really fun. And I just love that it's not instant gratification. I feel like our world and lifestyle is so fast paced, and everything's like, get it now, see it now, buy it today, and if it's not here today, it'll be here tomorrow, more or less. And that's great, but there's something kind of exciting about dropping off a roll of film and just looking forward to getting the scans back and just seeing what was on that roll of film, or how some of the images you were excited about actually came out. A lot of times I get excited about certain pictures that I took, and then when when the film gets developed, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so sad. It was not at all what I envisioned. So I think you really reach a good point in any sort of creative journey whenever you can finally create the image or idea that you have in your head, like the closest you can make that a reality. I think that's like what all creative people aim for, really. But I just get excited about when I reach the point that things in my mind can actually be completely portrayed as I see them in my head, or if I could even just talk the way that I think or write, that would be great, but it doesn't really work that way. Anyway, I did some research last year after wanting to dive into film photography, and I decided on the Pentax K1000 because it just seemed like a very basic, easy camera to learn. Not fancy at all. It has one little tiny compartment down here for the battery, for the light meter, and that's as fancy as it gets for this guy. And I love that. So I also just think it's like a really beautiful camera. So here's the shutter button, and here you can choose the film speed, and you can see how many shots you have left. And then this rolls the film up when you're done with it, pops the door open. I don't really want to do that now because I'm about halfway through a roll right now. Anyway, so that's the camera that I use. The sound of these film canisters is actually what inspired me to make this video. I was randomly playing with a canister that had been sitting around, and I heard the sound of the film canister. I was like, ooh, that's actually kind of nice. Especially the little lid. What is this one? This is a film that I haven't used yet. I've been trying a lot of different films. And I don't know. I feel like I actually like some of the cheaper films better. Basically sort of the ones that you would have found in like a disposable camera. I like those. Lomography, color negative, 400. I just think the colors are really pretty. I'll have to show you some of my favorite photos. Of course, how could I do a photography talk without showing some of the photos, right? So I'll show you some of the photos on the screen as I talk, but I'm going to look at them digitally so I can know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so the Lomography 400, the box that I was just tapping on, like this photo here is from a plant that's in my dining room. And then some more dining room plants in the window. And yeah, there's a lot of plant pictures in my house. This one is some of my plants, but it's just like the shadows of them on the wall of part of my dining room. And I just thought the light was really cool and like dreamy. So same with this one. This was actually an early morning photo where the light was coming through the window and the blinds were rolled down, so they just left this kind of like foggy, filmy, misty, dreamy look to them, and the light was all like gradient-y, and the window pane left like this grid, so it was just like really pretty. And so another film that I had was the Fuji. I don't exactly remember what it was, but it was a 400 speed. And so this is just like, it doesn't look good on the camera. I'll have to like put it on the screen for you. But there's just light across the floor that was really pretty. And I did a lot of trying to capture shadows and light and contrast. So that's me reading a book at my dining room table, and I noticed my shadow on the side, so I grabbed my camera and tried to like keep it within my shadow's boundaries, so that you couldn't see me holding it up. And yeah, and then this like rainbow light was coming in through the window, and I was reading this book, and it was like perfectly highlighting that. So I just thought that was really pretty. And this one is a really old abandoned house, and it was just really, I loved the like greenery growing all over it, and the peeling white paint and the graffiti, and I don't know, I really love that sort of imagery. Oh, and these are some really interesting twin homes, I call them. Yeah, so I thought this was really interesting just because the houses are so similar, and just the symmetry of it. As you might suspect, there's more nature photos, and this beautiful, beautiful cat who came up to me while walking, and she was so friendly. There's a couple of cats in this Jesus is Lord house. Clearly, I just love taking pictures of plants and animals. And do you blame me? I mean, yeah, so I actually made a folder which has all of the pets on porches that I've taken pictures of thus far. I've got this really cute old dog sitting on the stairs, and I just love, like, you can tell how old this sweet dog is. His muzzle's all white, and just, yeah. And then this old house with a really interesting awning, and this little cat just guarding it like a little lion statue or something. I don't know, just really pretty. And then this really beautiful cat sitting in the grass of an abandoned house. She has the most gorgeous eyes and pink nose, and her fur color is really pretty. So, and then this little black cat on some steps. Yeah, so I've been slowly collecting pictures of pets on porches, and might someday do something with all of those. These these are some of the negatives. I don't really have much to say about them. I just thought that they might make a nice sound. What do you know? So, yeah, the negatives. In here. This one's really interesting. It's from a 110 format film, which is actually from a camera that I had when I was a kid. And speaking of these little bags of negatives here, remind me of when I used to go get my film developed as a kid. I had my own little camera with just like the film cartridges that you could replace. And then I also used a lot of the disposable cameras, especially on like school field trips and stuff. I remember they used to sell the ones with all the like cool little designs on the outside. And so weirdly, while I was looking through some random drawer of mine, I found a film canister with a roll of film in it. And I, at that point, hadn't started buying film for film photography yet. And so I realized it was actually an old roll of film from my childhood. And so I wasn't sure, it was almost certainly expired, but I wasn't sure how many photos would come out, if any. But I was actually pleasantly surprised with how many actually did come out. And it brought back a lot of old memories. It was crazy to find that and then actually have images that still came from it. Like this really old picture of my dog growing up. She passed away almost 10 years ago now, I think, but yeah. And then it was strange to see like images of like the backyard of my childhood home that I grew up in, and I had so many memories of it, and these images almost feel weirdly like memories or like a dream, especially like this one. It's a blurry and it's just like it almost feels liminal in a way. They're just all very dreamlike. They feel like actual memories, I guess. It like if I try to think back, I feel like that's what my memories almost look like. It's hard to describe, but maybe you know what I mean. I have here in this album some old photos that actually did get developed before the film expired. So it was color photos, or they were, but yeah, I think the color just faded and I was lucky enough to be able to get an image from it. I chose this photo album whenever I was a kid, and it's about as old as the photos inside of it. So I will open this up and show you what some of this film probably would have looked like and what these images looked like in color. So you can see my dog. You can see how she has brown eyes, but she's just a black and white dog, so I guess you're not missing much with the color being out of some of those photos of her. Okay, so this was me in 2003, and I wanted to be creative and take a picture of my eyes, like those close-up, like super detailed, like iris pictures. But I had no understanding of focal length, lighting, depth of field, like anything. I was just like, oh, if you put the camera close enough, it'll look great. But I have learned a few things since then. There have been some minor improvements in my photography. Also, I just love this crinkly sound of old photo albums. The photo sleeves. All of my newer photos are just scans, and so I don't have physical copies of them, which saves some space, but there's something sort of nice about just flipping through. So, yeah, you can sort of see, at least with the swing set in one of those pictures, looked like you can see that it was white and like a teal color, and the flowers are indeed colorful. So the other interesting thing was just looking back. I would say those old photos from that film roll that I got developed were probably from between 2000 and 2003. And there's some pictures of like a family vacation we took, and even some old pictures of my grandparents. And it was just strange to see. Like, it doesn't even really feel like it was that long ago, but at the same time it almost feels like it was a completely different life. So that sort of gives you a better idea of what the original colors of the film had looked like. I just love the sound of pages turning on these old photo albums. The sound of the plastic sleeves. Nice. Maybe the year 2000 version of me would be happy to know that 24 years later, I still enjoy the texture and colors of this photo album. The design. I think year 2000 me would have also been very surprised to know that such a thing as YouTube even existed. Considering the state of the internet back then, I think it would have been hard to fathom. It really wasn't that long ago either, which is honestly, I just think things are going to continually change at an almost exponential rate. Like, even 5 years ago, things were very different, and I don't even know what things 5 years from now will even be. I feel like time did actually move slower in the past, in that you could make a pretty safe prediction of what the next 5 years might at least feel like, even if you couldn't predict like a specific current event, of course, or event, cultural, political, scientific, or otherwise. But I think you could be pretty comfortable knowing that there are certain parts of life that just were not going to change, and at least not within those 5 years. And these days, I just feel like so much feels like it's up in the air. It is strange to think that I feel like it'd be pretty easy to imagine life being different in ways that I can't quite fathom right now, even 5 to 10 years from now. But maybe that's also just part of, growing up. Anyway, so that was just a little bit about my film photography journey. I'm glad that it's a hobby I chose that I have kept up with, and there's a lot of hobbies out there that I start and I just buy like everything you need to be like a professional in a given hobby, and I learn how to do the basics, and then I think about the mountain I had to climb to like actually use the materials and make the things that I want to do, and I'm just like, I don't have time for this. One of the things that I've really enjoyed about film photography thus far has just been learning to slow down and really take in your environment and just be more mindful and present. Hopefully, if you were considering getting into film photography and you just haven't done it yet, take this as a sign to just go for it, give it a shot, because I've really enjoyed it thus far. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for spending some of your precious time with me and just letting me chit chat. And I hope we see each other again soon. But until then, stay well rested, and take good care. Bye bye.